Ms. Chen, Mr. Patterson straightened his blazer with practiced disdain. The membership committee has made their decision. I sat quietly in the oak-paneled office of the Evergreen Country Club, watching the afternoon light reflect off my laptop's screen. The same screen displaying confirmation of my latest acquisition. Your behavior has been deemed unsuitable, he continued, flanked by the committee members in their perfectly pressed khakis and pastel polos. The standards of Evergreen must be maintained. Unsuitable. I kept my voice neutral, thinking of the papers my lawyers had finalized that morning. The incident at the charity gala. Mrs. Whitmore spoke up, pearls gleaming. Speaking to the staff like equals. Suggesting the club's investment portfolio was. She shuddered, outdated. And your attire, Ms. Bradford added, eyeing my simple black dress, a hand-tailored piece worth more than her annual membership dues. The club has a certain aesthetic. I checked my watch, Swiss-made, discreet, worth more than their cars combined. So my membership is being revoked? Effective immediately, Mr. Patterson nodded gravely. We'll refund your annual dues, of course. That won't be necessary, I said, opening my laptop. But while we're discussing membership, I turned the screen toward them, displaying the ownership transfer documents. The color drained from Mr. Patterson's face. What is this? Proof of purchase, I replied. As of 9 this morning, Evergreen Country Club, along with its sister properties across the country, belongs to Phoenix Global Holdings. Mrs. Whitmore's perfectly manicured hand flew to her throat. Phoenix Global. The investment firm that's been buying luxury properties? My investment firm, I corrected gently, though I prefer to stay out of the spotlight. Usually. Through the window I could see members enjoying their afternoon golf, unaware that their exclusive sanctuary had just changed hands. This must be a mistake, Mr. Patterson stammered. No mistake, I smiled, pulling up more documents. Along with the club, Phoenix Global now owns the marina where you dock your boats, the private airfield you use for your weekend getaways, and, most interestingly, the banks holding most of your mortgages. The membership committee sat in stunned silence as their world shifted beneath their designer loafers. So, I closed my laptop. About that membership revocation. The staff complaints, Ms. Bradford whispered, her golf visor suddenly less crisp. When you defended them, were filed with the owner, I nodded. Which, as it turns out, was me. Even then, the wage increases and healthcare benefits have already been approved. Mr. Patterson's hands trembled as he reviewed the ownership documents. The renovation budget you questioned will be audited, I confirmed. Along with every financial decision this committee has made in the past 5 years. My team is particularly interested in those emergency repairs to the marina, the ones that somehow cost 3 times the market rate. Through the club's bay windows I could see my security detail arriving, not in uniform, but in suits that cost more than a year's membership. The investment portfolio, Mrs. Whitmore said faintly, when you said it was mismanaged, is now under Phoenix Global's control, I finished. Though I doubt your husband will enjoy explaining to his clients why their funds are being transferred to more competent managers. My phone buzzed with updates from my executive team. The simultaneous acquisition of 5 other exclusive clubs across the country, all part of today's carefully orchestrated takeover. Your clothes, Ms. Bradford muttered. We thought they were cheap. Handmade in Paris, I smiled, smoothing my simple dress. By artisans who work exclusively for my fashion subsidiaries. The same ones that supply those designer labels you love to flaunt. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the membership committee's faces as they realized just how completely they'd misread the situation. The charity gala, Mr. Patterson said suddenly. When you were talking to the wait staff. My employees, I corrected. The catering company is one of my holdings. Along with the valet service, the florist, and that wine import business you're so proud of having an account with. Outside, members were starting to notice the arrival of serious-looking executives in bespoke suits, my management team, here to begin the transition. The membership list, Mrs. Whitmore clutched her pearls. Surely you can't review and revise it? I pulled up another document on my laptop. Actually, that's first on today's agenda. Along with a complete overhaul of the club's rather discriminatory acceptance policies. Mr. Patterson's club tie suddenly seemed to be choking him. But the traditions of exclusion, elitism, financial mismanagement. I raised an eyebrow. Those traditions end today, though I'm sure the press would love to hear you defend them. As if on cue, my phone displayed alerts about Phoenix Global's latest acquisition. The first public acknowledgement of just who owned their precious sanctuary. Now, I stood straightening my designer dress. About that membership revocation. Mr. Patterson's hand shook as he reached for the revocation papers. We could reconsider. That won't be necessary, I smiled, pulling out my own documents. Because as of today the entire membership committee is being restructured. Mrs. Whitmore's perfectly coiffed hair seemed to deflate. You can't just remove you. Actually, I can. And will. I slid the papers across the mahogany table. Though the SEC might be more interested in your husband's creative accounting for the club's investment fund. Through the window, I could see more of my executives arriving, men and women whose net worth made the club's elite membership look like pocket change. The golf tournament next week, Ms. Bradford said weakly. The governor is attending. We'll proceed as planned, I nodded. Though he might be surprised to learn who's actually hosting him. My team has some interesting questions about those state contracts his brother-in-law keeps winning. The afternoon light caught my laptop's screen, displaying real-time updates as Phoenix Global's acquisition became public knowledge. The club's carefully cultivated image of exclusive power was crumbling with each news alert. Your table at the dining room, Mr. Patterson tried one last time. The one you complained about. Near the kitchen? I smiled. Will make an excellent location for my private office. The renovation starts tomorrow. Though I suspect the kitchen staff, who by the way now have full benefits and fair wages, will enjoy watching you explain yourselves to my audit team. My phone buzzed again. More notifications about Phoenix Global's expanding luxury portfolio. The same company they dismissed as new money when I'd hinted at my connections. The membership fees you paid, Mrs. Whitmore offered desperately. We can refund. Are less than what I spend on coffee each month, I cut in. Though I'm more interested in the fees you've been charging other members, particularly the ones who don't match your preferred demographic. The sound of helicopters approached. My executive transport arriving for the emergency board meeting that would reshape their precious institution. You see, I continued, gathering my things, while you were all busy deciding who was worthy of joining your club, I was busy buying it. And every other property and business you depend on to maintain your illusion of exclusivity. The board of directors, Mr. Patterson said weakly, watching through the window as my executive team assembled on the lawn. They won't stand for this. The board, I smiled, pulling up another document, was replaced this morning, though most of them were quite eager to resign once they saw the audit results. Fascinating spending habits, by the way. Mrs. Whitmore's pearls clinked nervously as she shifted in her seat. The annual charity ball will proceed under new management, I confirmed. Though the actual charities might finally see more than 10% of the proceeds. My forensic accountants are quite interested in where the rest has been going. Through the club's grand windows, members were gathering to watch as 3 black helicopters landed on the golf course. My private fleet, each worth more than their combined annual dues. The dress code, Ms. Bradford tried desperately. The standards you violated are being rewritten, I cut in. Along with the membership criteria that somehow rejected every qualified applicant who didn't fit your particular profile. My phone displayed another alert, global luxury markets responding to news of Phoenix Global's latest acquisition. The same markets that would soon reveal exactly who held the real power in their social circle. Your table complaints, Mr. Patterson muttered, when you asked to be moved from the kitchen area, will be addressed in the complete renovation, I nodded. Though I suspect the current seating arrangement reflects rather poorly on this committee's priorities. Outside, my security detail had taken up positions around the perimeter. The same professionals they'd dismissed as hired help during previous visits. The marina expansion, Mrs. Whitmore said suddenly. The project you questioned is being investigated by my compliance team, I confirmed. Along with several other improvements, that somehow cost triple the market rate. I'm sure your husband's construction company can explain the discrepancies. The afternoon sun caught my laptop screen as more breaking news appeared. Phoenix Global so finally revealed as the mysterious buyer reshaping the luxury landscape. Now, I stood, smoothing my couture dress. Let's discuss the real changes coming to Evergreen. Mr. Patterson's club tie seemed to tighten itself. Changes. Complete overhaul of membership criteria. Financial audit of all accounts. Investigation of discriminatory practices. I checked my phone. Oh, and the immediate dissolution of this committee. Mrs. Whitmore's manicured hand trembled. You can't. Actually, I can. And am. I smiled. Though I'm sure the press would love to hear your defense of the club's interesting membership decisions, particularly regarding those qualified applicants who were rejected for surprisingly consistent reasons. Through the windows I could see my executive team approaching, global power players who made their social circle look decidedly provincial. The staff entrance you insisted I use last month? I continued. Will be renovated into the new corporate offices. Though I'm sure you'll all have plenty of time to find new clubs to join. Assuming any will have you after today's revelations. Mr. Patterson made one last attempt. The other members are about to learn exactly who owns their sanctuary, I finished. Along with their boats, their private banking services, and most of their investment portfolios. Amazing what you can acquire while people are busy judging your clothes. My phone buzzed with another update. Markets responding to Phoenix Global's emergence as a dominant force in luxury properties. So, I gathered my belongings. About that membership revocation. The committee sat in stunned silence as reality settled over their perfectly coordinated outfits. Consider this your exit interview, I said, heading for the door. Though you might want to contact your lawyers. My audit team has some interesting questions about the club's finances under your supervision. The sound of helicopters filled the air as I prepared to leave, drowning out their stammered protests. Oh, and Mr. Patterson? I paused at the threshold. That unsuitable behavior you mentioned? Turns out owning everything is the most suitable behavior of all. Sometimes I mused as I walked toward my waiting aircraft. The best revenge isn't getting even. It's becoming their boss. Absolutely useless. My father spat, throwing my medical school acceptance letter onto the kitchen table. Another 5 years of school when you could be helping run the family business? What's wrong with you, Sophia? I stood in our family's expansive kitchen, my hands trembling but my voice steady. I want to be a surgeon, Dad. It's all I've ever wanted. A surgeon. My brother Alex snorted from his perch on the granite counter. You can barely handle a paper cut. Besides, the hardware store chain needs someone with actual business sense. Mom sat silently at the table, methodically folding and unfolding her napkin. She hadn't looked at me once during this entire conversation. Anderson Hardware has been in this family for 3 generations, Dad continued, his face reddening. Your grandfather built this from nothing, and now you want to abandon it for some ridiculous dream? I took a deep breath. I'm not abandoning anything. I just want to. To what? Alex interrupted. Waste more of Dad's money? How much did you spend on med school applications anyway? I paid for those myself, I said quietly. Every single one. Dad laughed bitterly. With what money? The trust fund we gave you? The car we bought you? The roof over your head? I lifted my chin. With money I saved working at the hospital. I've been volunteering in the ER for 2 years and they started paying me 6 months ago. Oh, wonderful, Alex clapped sarcastically. My sister, the minimum wage hospital orderly. Really living the dream there, sophomore. That's enough, Mom finally spoke, her voice tight. Sophia, your father's right. This medical school nonsense needs to stop. The family needs you here. I looked at her incredulously. The family needs me to give up my dreams? To work in a business I have no passion for? Passion doesn't pay bills, Dad snapped. The business is struggling. We need all hands on deck, not some selfish child chasing fantasies. I'm not being selfish, I protested. I want to help people, to save lives. Enough. Dad's shout made the windows rattle. I'm done discussing this. Either you commit to the family business or you can get out. No more support, no more trust fund, no more anything. The kitchen fell silent. Alex's smirk grew wider as he watched me struggle with the ultimatum. I've already accepted the admission, I said softly. Classes start next month. Dad's face went purple. Then get out. Richard, Mom started but he cut her off. No, she wants to throw away her inheritance? Fine. Pack your bags, Sophia. You're no longer welcome here. I stood frozen, looking between them, Dad's fury, Mom's averted eyes, Alex's obvious glee. These were the people who were supposed to support me, to believe in me. You have an hour, Dad said coldly. Take what you can carry. The rest goes to charity. I climbed the stairs to my bedroom in a daze. The acceptance letter from Johns Hopkins Medical School was still clutched in my hand, slightly crumpled now from Dad's grip. I'd been so excited to show them, so sure they'd be proud. How naive I'd been. In my room, I grabbed my largest suitcase and started packing methodically. Clothes, important documents, the small box of jewelry from my grandmother who'd passed away last year. She'd been the only one who'd ever encouraged my medical dreams. You're really doing this? Alex appeared in my doorway. Choosing some stupid dream over your family? I continued packing. No, Alex. I'm choosing my future over fear. There's a difference. You'll fail, he said confidently. You'll come crawling back within a month, begging for forgiveness. I zipped up my suitcase and turned to face him. You know what's funny? Everyone in this family is so focused on preserving the past that they can't see the future. Anderson Hardware is failing because none of you will adapt or change. And now you're making the same mistake with me. His smug expression faltered slightly. Downstairs, Dad was waiting by the front door, my mother still conspicuously absent. Your car stays, he said flatly. It's in the family's name. Fine. I pulled out my phone and ordered an Uber. This is your last chance, Sophia, he said as I walked past him. Stay, work in the business, be part of this family. I paused on the front steps of the house I'd grown up in. I am part of this family, Dad. You're the one choosing money and control over your daughter. You're choosing to leave, he corrected harshly. No, I said, feeling surprisingly calm. I'm choosing to become who I'm meant to be. And one day you'll need me a lot more than I need you. The Uber pulled up to our circular driveway. As I loaded my suitcase into the trunk, I could feel Dad watching from the doorway. Just before I got in, I turned back one last time. By the way, I called out, Anderson Hardware isn't failing because of the economy. It's failing because your online competitors offer better prices and actual customer service. But you'd know that if you ever listened to anyone else's ideas. Then I got in the car, leaving behind everything I'd ever known for everything I wanted to become. The acceptance letter was still in my hand, and as we drove away, I smoothed it out carefully. Where to? The driver asked. I gave him an address, the small apartment I'd secretly rented last week, using my savings from the hospital job. I wasn't as unprepared as they thought. You okay? He asked, noting my expression in the rearview mirror. I nodded, watching my childhood home disappear behind us. I will be. Sometimes being called useless is exactly the motivation you need to become extraordinary. 10 years passed in a blur of surgical rotations, sleepless nights, and countless procedures. I worked my way through medical school, taking extra shifts at the hospital to make ends meet. Every time exhaustion hit, every time I questioned my choices, I remembered my father's words. You're useless to this family. Those words fueled me through my residency at Johns Hopkins, where I graduated top of my class. They pushed me through my fellowship in cardiothoracic surgery, where I pioneered a new minimally invasive technique that caught the attention of the medical community. Now, at 35, I stood in my office at Manhattan Memorial Hospital, looking at my newly updated nameplate. Dr. Sophia Anderson, Chief of Cardiothoracic Surgery. Dr. Anderson, my assistant knocked on the door. The board meeting is about to start. I gathered my files, straightening my white coat. In the decade since I'd left home, I'd had no contact with my family. Sometimes I'd see news about Anderson Hardware store closures, declining sales, the inevitable shift to online retail that they'd resisted for too long. The board meeting was routine until the chief of medicine made an unexpected announcement. As you all know, Manhattan Memorial is merging with 3 smaller hospitals in the tri-state area, he said. Dr. Anderson will be overseeing the standardization of cardiac care across all facilities. I felt a flutter of pride. My innovative surgical techniques had not only saved lives but had also cut recovery times in half. Now they would become the standard across multiple hospitals. After the meeting, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Dr. Anderson speaking. Sophia. The voice was hesitant, familiar. My hand tightened on the phone. What do you want? It's your father, she said, her voice breaking. He had a heart attack. The doctors say he needs emergency bypass surgery, but there are complications. They're recommending transfer to Manhattan Memorial. The irony wasn't lost on me. Manhattan Memorial, my hospital where I was chief of cardiac surgery. Does he know you're calling me? I asked coldly. No, she admitted. He's unconscious. Sophia, please. The doctors here say you're the best. They say if anyone can do this surgery, it's you. I closed my eyes, remembering the last time I'd seen my father. Send his files to my office. I'll review the case. An hour later, I stood in the emergency department as the ambulance arrived. Alex burst through the doors first, looking older but still carrying that same arrogant air. He stopped short when he saw me. What are you doing here? He demanded. My job, I replied calmly, checking my father's vitals as they transferred him to our gurney. I'm the chief of cardiothoracic surgery. Alex's face went through a range of emotions: shock, disbelief, and finally a dawning realization. Before he could speak, Mom rushed in. Sophia, she whispered, taking in my white coat, the respectful way the staff deferred to me. You really did it. Dr. Anderson, one of my residents interrupted. The OR is prepped. I nodded, starting to walk alongside my father's gurney. Mom tried to grab my arm. Wait, we need to discuss this. Your father wouldn't want. What your father wants, I cut her off, is to live. And right now I'm his best chance at that. Now if you'll excuse me, I have a surgery to perform. You can't operate on him. Alex protested. You're too what? I asked sharply. Too useless? Too weak. I'm the top cardiac surgeon on the East Coast, Alex. The technique we'll be using today? I developed it. The published papers on your father's condition? I wrote them. The residents around us tried to hide their smiles. My reputation in the hospital was legendary, and watching their chief stand up to her past was better than any medical drama. As we reached the OR doors, I turned to my family one last time. You can wait in the private consultation room. Someone will update you every hour. Sophia, Mom called out as I started to scrub in. We were wrong about you. So wrong. I looked at her reflection in the OR window. Yes, you were. Now if you'll excuse me, this useless daughter has a life to save. The OR lights blazed above me as I stepped in, my team ready and waiting. On the table lay my father, the man who'd thrown me out, who'd called me useless, who'd tried to crush my dreams. Scalpel, I said calmly, holding out my hand. Sometimes the best revenge isn't proving people wrong. It's becoming so right that they have no choice but to put their lives in your hands. 8 hours later, I walked into the consultation room where my family waited. Their heads snapped up, faces anxious and drawn. The surgery was successful, I said professionally. We performed a quadruple bypass using my minimally invasive technique. He'll need several weeks of recovery, but the prognosis is good. Mom burst into tears. Alex slumped in his chair, relief evident on his face. He's in recovery now, I continued. You can see him briefly in about an hour. As I turned to leave, Mom called out, Sophia, wait. Your father, when he wakes up. When he wakes up, I interrupted, he'll be in the care of the hospital's best cardiac team. Not because he's my father, but because that's what we do here. That's what this useless daughter built. I walked out, my white coat swishing behind me. At the nurse's station, I picked up my next case file. Life went on and there were more hearts to fix. 3 days later, my father opened his eyes to find me checking his vitals. You. He whispered hoarsely. Hello, Dad, I said, making notes in his chart. I'm Dr. Anderson, your surgeon. And as it turns out, I'm not so useless after all. I walked out of his room, head held high. Sometimes the smallest victories are the sweetest, like saving the life of someone who once threw yours away. In my office, I looked at my wall of medical achievements, the patents, the publications, the awards. Then I smiled, remembering his words from 10 years ago. Being useless had worked out pretty well after all.